The first whispers of trouble started when Ben Shephard was reportedly seen spending time with a woman connected to one of his latest ITV projects. At first, the story seemed harmless, a friendly, professional interaction between colleagues. After all, Ben has long been known as one of the most respected and genuinely kind presenters on British television. A man loved not just for his charm and warmth, but for his grounded nature, the kind that makes viewers feel like they're catching up with an old friend every morning on This Morning or Tipping Point. But then, the tone of the whispers began to shift. The sightings reportedly grew more frequent. Lunch meetings became dinners. And before long, a few photographs surfaced online, pictures of Ben laughing over a meal with a production staffer at a quiet restaurant in London's Soho. To most people, it looked innocent enough, two colleagues sharing a relaxed meal. But for some corners of the media, that single photograph became fuel for speculation. The headlines were quick to follow. Ben Shephard's mystery dinner companion. Who is she? Trouble brewing in the Shephard household. And just like that, the story began spiraling out of control. Annie Shephard, Ben's wife of over 2 decades, has always kept a low profile. A fiercely private woman, Annie has preferred to stay away from the spotlight, choosing family, home, and quiet normalcy over the flashing lights of fame. But for those who know her, her strength has never been in doubt. She's the quiet force behind Ben's career, his anchor through the chaos of live television, demanding schedules and public attention. So when the rumors broke, insiders say Annie didn't react with anger or rash emotion. Instead, she did something far more disarming. She simply stayed silent. Friends close to the couple describe her silence not as weakness, but as calm before a storm. She didn't confront Ben immediately. She didn't issue statements. She simply waited and watched. But things took a sharper turn when new photos appeared in the tabloids. This time, the same woman was seen entering a private event with Ben, an after-party linked to a charity event he hosted. The images were far from scandalous, but the captions were ruthless. Words like intimate, comfortable, and secretive were used, and before long, the story became less about truth and more about perception. For Annie, it wasn't about the pictures themselves. It was about trust, and the feeling of being blindsided by a world that was suddenly dissecting her marriage for entertainment. Those close to her say she was deeply hurt, not because of what Ben had done, but because she had always believed that their bond was untouchable, that no headline could ever touch what they had built together. Behind the cameras, Ben was said to be in complete turmoil. Sources from ITV hinted that Ben looked distracted during filming, his trademark smile forced, his focus slipping. Another insider revealed Ben's always been the steady one, always calm, always kind, but lately he's looked lost. At home, tensions were growing. While Annie avoided the media frenzy, she was reportedly consulting close friends, including a few in the legal field. And that's where things took a stunning turn. According to reports that quickly made their way through media circles, Annie Shephard quietly contacted one of London's top family law firms, a team known for representing some of Britain's most high-profile television personalities. It wasn't a lawsuit. It wasn't a public declaration. It was a precaution. But in the celebrity world, even a whisper of legal consultation is enough to send shockwaves. Suddenly, ITV executives were on alert. Tabloids began speculating whether this was the beginning of the end for one of television's most beloved marriages. Could Annie truly be preparing for something as devastating as divorce? Or was this her way of taking control, of protecting herself before the media twisted the story beyond recognition? While Annie moved quietly behind the scenes, Ben was reportedly in full damage control mode. He began calling close friends, reassuring them, denying any wrongdoing. He told one longtime colleague that the woman in question was simply part of the Tipping Point production team, and that the dinner had been about a charity project, not romance. "There was nothing to hide," Ben reportedly said. "But when you're in this business, even a smile can be turned into a story." But the photos and the endless speculation had already done the damage. Those who know Ben personally describe this as one of the toughest periods of his life. A man known for empathy and lightheartedness suddenly found himself questioning everything. His public image, his marriage, his reputation, all hanging in the balance. On social media, fans were divided. Some stood by him, insisting the rumors were unfair, but others speculated that fame had finally taken its toll on another beloved presenter. On X, formerly Twitter, hashtags like #StandByBen and #ProtectAnnie began trending simultaneously, a reflection of how deeply the public had become invested in their story. It was no longer just gossip. It was heartbreak in real time, unfolding before an audience of millions. To understand the gravity of this moment, one must go back to where it all began. Ben and Annie first met in the early 1990s, long before fame or fortune. They were university sweethearts, grounded, ambitious, and deeply in love. When Ben's career began to take off, hosting GMTV and later Tipping Point, Annie remained the steady constant. They married in 2004 and built a life defined not by glamour, but by mutual respect and laughter. Together, they raised 2 sons, Jack and Sam, and created a family life that was refreshingly normal compared to the glitzy world Ben often found himself in. So for fans who had followed their journey for decades, the idea of trouble between them felt almost unthinkable. According to close friends, Annie finally confronted Ben one evening after the children had gone to bed. It wasn't a shouting match. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, painful, real. She asked for honesty, not about the dinner, but about them, about whether the man she had supported all these years was still the same man sitting across from her now. Ben, visibly emotional, reportedly admitted that he had been careless, not in action, but in awareness. He had underestimated how something innocent could look from the outside, and how deeply it could wound the woman he loved most. He promised to fix it, to rebuild what had been shaken. And for the first time in weeks, Annie spoke softly. "Then you'll have to prove it, not just say it." In the weeks that followed, viewers noticed subtle changes. Ben took a short break from television, citing personal reasons. ITV released a brief statement respecting his privacy, but behind that professional courtesy, insiders whispered that Ben was focusing entirely on his family, on Annie, on the boys, on rediscovering what truly mattered. For a man whose career revolved around smiling through the chaos of live TV, the silence must have been deafening. As the story continued to unfold, something remarkable happened. Colleagues and fans rallied around him, not with judgment, but with empathy. His co-hosts on This Morning reportedly reached out privately, offering words of encouragement. And even former contestants from Tipping Point shared supportive messages online, praising Ben's decency and humility. It was as if the country had collectively decided that this was not a scandal, but a story about human frailty and second chances. Meanwhile, Annie remained composed. She avoided interviews, refused to speak to tabloids, and continued her routine quietly in the background. But those close to her say her strength during this time earned her even greater respect. She was hurt, but she was not broken. And while many expected her to retreat, she did something quietly powerful. She returned to her community work and began mentoring young women about resilience and dignity in the face of public pressure. Then came a turning point, a candid interview Ben gave during his return to Good Morning Media. He didn't address the rumors directly, but his words carried a depth and honesty that spoke volumes. Sometimes, life throws you into moments that test every part of who you are. Your patience, your pride, your love. But if you're lucky, you find that forgiveness is stronger than fear. Viewers flooded the show with messages of support. Many said they could feel the rawness in his tone,
A man humbled, not by fame, but by love tested and found again. Months later, Ben and Annie were seen together at a charity gala, hand in hand. No grand statements, no staged smiles, just quiet unity. It was a powerful image, not of perfection, but of perseverance. A reminder that marriages, even the strongest ones, are made of fragile human moments and the courage to forgive. Their story became less about scandal and more about survival. A modern reminder that real strength often hides behind closed doors, in quiet conversations and small acts of love. Today, sources close to the couple say they're stronger than ever. Ben has reportedly adjusted his schedule, prioritizing family over filming. Annie continues to stay out of the spotlight, content to rebuild